everyone, it's me, See Lefty Run. I know I said I wasn't, I'll see you after Boston, but I lied. Not intentionally. I just, you know, got a lot going on with the taper. I am going crazy. I think I was like, I love a good taper. It's so great. I can just totally relax. No, I'm like anything but relaxed. So I need to vent to someone that will listen besides my family who like doesn't get it and they're just kind of tired of hearing me talk about it. And my friends, they just all want me to be done with it by now. So, but you guys get it. So I'll share with you. First of all, so running this week went pretty well. On Tuesday, I had a 9-mile run and I was supposed to do 6 at marathon pace. It was like really windy out. And I was like, forget it. I'm just going to run it based on effort, which is what I did. It wasn't a great effort. Felt really hard. All my runs this week have felt really, really hard. But I was like, okay, the effort was there. I just got to let the pace thing go. Sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. Just is what it is. Saturday, I had an easy 12, right? And I was like, that's just easy. Because normally my Saturday runs are either the long run paced efforts, which was 8, 15 to 9, 10, huge range there. Or I had marathon paced miles in it. It's one of the two. So this one was just easy. My easy run pace is a 9:10 to like a 10:39. So I was like, it's easy. I'm gonna just get up and not eat any breakfast and go for a run without fuel. Like, who does that? Someone who's going crazy with the taper, like all bad decisions. And I felt like crap for the 12 miles. I felt really great for like till about mile 7. And then it just all went downhill. I mean, I finished it. I think my average pace was like a 9:16, which, it's not typically my easy run pace. My easy run pace is normally like a 9:45, right? So I just completely blew the whole thing. I'm like, what are you doing, fool? So I'm having the taper crazies, I guess. Anyway, on Friday was my last, not Friday, Thursday was my last day of work. It was so sweet, you guys. All my students' families made me signs like, go, Mrs. Moreno, good luck in Boston. It was really sweet. I posted on my Instagram. Of course, I can't post the kids on my Instagram because they're kids and privacy and all of that. I'm hesitant to even post my own kids on Instagram. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So they did all that. And then my coworkers made these super cute cookies. Well, didn't make them, but ordered them. Isn't that so sweet? So I just found, and the kids made a faux finish line. They were all standing with pom-poms. And then there was a fake finish line and they played the Rocky soundtrack. And I had to run through. So that was awesome. Believe it or not, any type of attention makes me really uncomfortable, which is ironic coming from someone who has like a YouTube channel, right? So I always get really uncomfortable, and it's not that. And then I figured out what it is. Like, how do you thank someone for something like that? And is my thank you big enough? So I think that's why it just kind of makes me uncomfortable, because I am so grateful and I am. But then there is a part of me that's like, oh gosh, I have to, I don't know. It's weird. Now I've got to do something back. And that's not what giving is, right? When people give, hopefully they don't expect anything in return. And I know these people and they don't, but I still feel like, oh gosh, So anyway, but it was really nice. It made me feel really good. And my students, they want me to win the race. So I was like, I'm going to win it, you guys. Don't worry. I'm going to come back with my medal and they're going to think I won. I am wearing my Boston Qualified sweatshirt for 2022. And I figure I can wear this Boston gear because it's qualified. And I did do that. So, which, speaking of Boston marathon gear, saw my uncle yesterday, and I think he's in his 80s now. And he's ran Boston, you guys, 9 times. He did not start running until he was in his 40s. And qualified for Boston 9 times as a man, like approaching his 50s, and then started doing Ironmans. and like went to Kona in 2017. So he's almost 80. I don't know how old he is. My mom is almost 70, and I know he's a good 8 years older than she is. So the fact that he did it, Kona in 2017, I'm like, whoa. And then he would get to the point to where he would kind of joke when he did his Ironmans. He'd be like, yeah, I placed first in my age group. And I'd be like, Uncle Jim, that's awesome. He was like, well, it was just me and another guy. Like he got to the point where he was up there in age where he would often be the only one in his age group. So he's just kind of inspiring in that way. But he brought, so I saw him for pre-Easter and he had a map printed out for Boston. He was explaining the course to me, like, look, this is what you got to do here and there. And he brought his very first Boston jacket from 1996, the year I graduated high school. Look, it's embroidered. You guys, the quality on this thing is really good. Mine is so cheap. It's like very disappointing. At first, I was trying to say, oh, it's a great jacket. I qualified. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, this jacket is lame. However, it's not like I'm going to ever really wear it around, so it's fine. But this one's really nice. Look at it, embroidered. Anyway, he was like, I want you to wear it to the expo. And I was like, that's bad luck, Uncle Jim. I haven't finished the race yet. And he's like, but it's my jacket. It's not like you're saying you finished the race. It's not your 2023 jacket. So I was like, I'm going to bring it for luck. I don't want to wear it before the race because of bad juju. So I'm superstitious that way. I'm going to take it for good luck. I'll put it on after when I finish, and I'll send him a picture of me at the finish line with his jacket. So that's the plan for that. So having ran Boston 9 times, he said his first qualifier was a 3:15 at Chicago. And mind you, this was before all the technology and everything they have now, right? And he was an older gentleman at the time, like 40s and 50s. Not to say that that's not, but anyway. So I said, he goes, and there he goes, Boston was always tough for me. He goes, very rarely it was always hard for me to break 4 in Boston. And he goes, one year I ran it in 3:23, and he goes, I don't know what happened that year. It was just things were flowing. And he was like, if you can get over the Newton Hills in good shape, he said, for him, he was like, the uphills are fine. He goes, what killed my quads was the downhill. So after going through Newton, coming down Heartbreak Hill, my legs would just fall apart. He was like, every time he goes, I don't know if it's lactic acid. I don't know what it was, but it was coming down. Well, I happen to know about myself. I'm a pretty good downhill runner. I'm a pretty good uphill runner. Like I've run Big Sur. I prefer kind of a hilly course. So we'll see how that pays off for me. He was just like, take it easy in the beginning, which is the advice I've gotten from everyone. No one is like, hey, bang time in the beginning. Everyone's like, take it easy in the beginning. So that's my plan. So it's interesting for him to say, as a pretty fast marathoner, someone who's done Kona, that he and Boston have never had great races together. Although he's like, that one year I had like a 3:23. But I said, was it ever miserably hot? He goes, no, and I never had rain. And he would much rather run in the heat than in the cold. And I'm the opposite. I'd rather run in cold than heat. I remember there were a couple Ironmans where he did not finish because the water, like when he would do the swim, it was so cold. He would start to shiver so much, even with the wetsuit and everything, that he'd have to pull out, and because he was afraid of drowning. And then he was telling me about, the men would start the first wave and then they send out the women. And he was like, swimming was always his worst, right? And he was always like, I'd be on that swim. And he goes, I was, the men, like, I could get, he goes, but when I heard the women coming, I knew it was look out. He goes, because they will swim right over you. Like they do not back off at all. He goes, the women are definitely, he goes, in his experience were way more competitive than the men were. So he wanted to make sure to get a good lead in front of the women who would just run him over. Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. So that's my uncle for you. So that's what he told me. I never gave you an update on this, I realized. So I don't feel like it worked for me. In fact, I haven't, and it's like $80 a bottle, right? I've gone through 2, and then I had a third one. And I bought that on the third one on January 2nd, assuming I was going to keep taking it. And now I'm about ready to start the third bottle. And I'm like, why am I going to start this when I don't feel like it's working? So I contacted the feed who I got it from, and their return policy is 30 days if you don't open it. If you do open it, they'll give you like a credit or something like that. Anyway, it's a liberal return policy, in my opinion. I was outside of the 30-day window. So I emailed them and I was like, look, this is really expensive. I don't really feel like it's working. I would like to return it if I can. If not, I understand. And they emailed me back. They were like, no, you can return it. You know, as long if it hasn't been open, we'll give you a refund. Just mail it back, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was really nice. So 2 thumbs up for the feed. That's going back. What else? Oh, so when I'm taking to Boston, you know, like I don't fall asleep easily. My natural, you know, inclination for sleep is between 10:30 and 11. But with waking up so early in the morning, I have to fall asleep by typically 8:30 or 9. And that's been hard for me. The only thing that has helped me with that, not a doctor, not a product endorser. I'm just letting you know from my personal experience. Via CBD, and it has THC. So I'm going to take this to Boston. This is called Cloud9. It's not even for sleep. It doesn't have melatonin in it, which I like, but it makes me sleepy just like this one does. This is the lights out with melatonin. This one has 3 milligrams of melatonin, 5 milligrams of THC, 50 milligrams of CBD. And I was worried about taking this to Boston because of the THC. I was like, am I going to be able to get it on the flight? Apparently you can, because it's not a big enough amount or something. I don't know. So I'm taking this to Boston so I can fall into the East Coast rhythm, because I know I'm going to struggle otherwise. And I like this one too, because it also makes me sleepy. Like I said, but it doesn't have melatonin. This one has melatonin. This one doesn't. I try not to take melatonin too much. So those are going to Boston. Told you I'm going crazy with the taper. That's where my head is at. Oh, my son says to me this morning, my youngest, he said, hey, yeah, for some reason, my throat hurts. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, you better stay away from me. You better stay away from me. You're just mentioning this now for some reason, your throat hurts. And I almost felt like he was just doing it to kind of like alarm me, because that's what he likes to do. And I was like, ugh. Anyway, fingers crossed that the garlic mushroom pill things I've been taking keep my immunity in good shape. All right. So what else? Oh, I've been obsessing about the weather. Not obsessing. I pulled back on the obsession. I think I'm going to start packing today. So today I had a look. Looks like it's going to be 58, 60s for the race, which for me here in California, pretty good. Pretty good. But the humidity is high. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about it because I know it changes all the time. My cousin Matthew, who I also saw yesterday, who went to MIT, by the way, full ride, by the way, public school down the street from me, full ride to MIT out of high school. Then went to Stanford for his master's, and then went to like Switzerland for his PhD. And he's now like building robots here in Long Beach that do, I don't know what, they like deliver Amazon packages, something like that. Anyway, he lived in Boston for a long time, and he was like, oh my God, the weather changes every 5 minutes. And I was like, okay. He's like, I don't, you know, it could be hot in the morning and snowing in the afternoon. So that was his take on it. I was like, all right. And then I think my goal, I don't really have a time goal. Like listening to my uncle saying he's 315 and he had a hard time breaking 4. And then when you look at people and they do their world majors and it has like the time breakdown for all the world majors, like Boston's always the slowest one, seems to be always the slowest one. So again, I'm just going to go out. I want to feel good. I want to, when I'm running down Heartbreak Hill, I want to feel like, oh my gosh, I can totally finish this, no problem. So that is going to require me to start slower, at least not go faster than marathon pace. So I've been training for a 3:35. But I feel like I didn't do a lot of hill work, and part of me is banking on the fact that I ran Big Bear in November, and that was like all downhill, and then mostly downhill, right? The first 9 are rolling. And then when I typically do run races with hills, I do fine whether I've totally trained on them or not. Not fine, but they don't really like mentally do anything to me. I ran Big Sur, you guys, like years ago, but the hill for Big Sur from 11 to 13, it's a climb. And then you think what got me in Big Sur was not that. I was mentally prepared for that. What got me at the end of Big Sur was there's rollers to the finish. I wasn't expecting that because there's so much focus on like the Hurricane Point hill that when I got down and I was like, "Ooh, I'm home free." It was like, actually, you're not. Actually, there's more. They're just not as bad as that one, so no one talks about it. Again, this was in 2007, before the internet, not before the internet, but before like Instagram, where you can kind of like totally research everything. So that mentally kind of did me in. I think I finished that one in 4:28. So I don't know. I mean, I'm a totally different person and runner now. Just saying. It's my argument for the hills. And then there's also a part of me that's like, it's Boston. And I think I've mentioned this before. You want to like do your best, right? You want to like prove that you deserve to be there. And there's something in the back of my mind that's like, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. And I'm like, I qualified 3 times. My last 3 marathons were all Boston qualifiers. So I do deserve it. But then there's a part of me that's like, you did it on a downhill course. You did it on a downhill course. And it's all silliness, but anyway, I gotta let all that go and go out there and have fun. So what else? I did sign up for, I think I told you I'm going to an Angels Red Sox game. I also signed up for Featherstone Nutrition and Believe in the Run. They have some event thing on Saturday where they're going to talk about nutrition. And I used Featherstone Nutrition's free guide for Big Bear, and that I never that was my first race where I maintained pace like to the finish. So whatever she told me worked, I think. So I want to go to that. And she also, did I tell you I messaged her? And she got back to me and I said, when should I take? I'm going to take 2 caffeinated gels on the course. I was going to take one at mile 16 before the Newton Hills or right at the Newton Hills. What do you think? And she goes, I think you should do it at mile 8. So it'll be kicking in by the time you get to the hills. And I was like, all right. So I think I'm going to take a caffeinated gel at mile 8. Anyway, but it's nice of her to get back to me. I didn't, I don't pay her. I'm not one of her clients anyway. And then I have a shakeout scheduled with Believe in the Run on Sunday. But, I'm going to be all over people on Monday at the race and not a big fan of crowds. So there's a gal that is in my Luke Humphrey Run Club that she's like, has like, hey, if you're, if anyone's interested, we can do a shakeout on Sunday, this time, this place. And there's only like a few of us that engage on this group. So I was like, maybe I'll just meet her. I've been seeing her progress throughout this. I mean, she just subbed 3 Mount Charleston. Maybe I'll meet up with her. And instead of so I'll let you know in my recap what I end up doing. So that's the plan. Anything hurting? My piriformis is kind of hurting a little bit. Yesterday I was running, my knee was hurting a little bit. My hip's been hurting a little bit. Everything's been hurting a little bit. But when it's the arnica and the arthritis cream and the saran wrap, just going to keep doing that. I don't know if it's taper phantom pains from the taper, or we'll find out, won't we? So fingers crossed I stay well. That was my only goal, right? Show up to the start line healthy. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. I just had a vent. And my sleep, you guys. One more thing. And again, it's Garmin. Everyone's like, take it with a grain of salt. And that's advice I'd give to other people. I'm like, it's just Garmin, but I listen to it. And so Garmin, like this morning, my body battery was like, was it 65, 75, lower than it's like been in a long time. And then my sleep score was like 80. Normally it's like 90s. So I'm like, what's up? So all these little things, all these things that I can normally like overlook. I'm just looking, what's interesting? I'm just kind of looking for things that like I'm trying to convince myself I'm not going to have a good race. Like, oh, your body it's not going to be good. I need to get out of that mind frame. So thanks for listening to my crazy mind frame while I taper. Not even much of a taper. I'm supposed to run, I don't know how many on Tuesday, but 4 miles at marathon pace. I might just do easy. I feel like my body just needs to do easy this week. So we'll see. All right. Thanks for listening. Have a great week. I'll see you in the recap. Bye.